First question, what would you do to lower unemployment? Ms. Brickley, 2 minutes.
Yeah, our biggest problem right now is unemployment. As I travel around the district, it really is depressing because there are so many people out of work that are struggling to make ends meet, and that needs to be our top priority. Washington's answer to this problem was a stimulus bill that was supposed to create jobs. Here in Connecticut, it was supposed to create 41,000 jobs. As of August, we had created or saved only 7,600 jobs, and that cost taxpayers over $350,000 per job created or saved. Unemployment now is much, much higher than it was before the stimulus bill was passed. Clearly, that was a complete failure. The problem is, it's not the federal government that creates jobs. We need to do more to stimulate the private enterprise and encourage the private enterprise and small businesses to grow and create jobs. And what that means is we need to stop the wasteful government spending, we need to stop the wasteful stimulus spending, and we need to do things that help the small businesses, which create up to 70% of the jobs. What I would do as your congressperson is to help small businesses by extending the tax credits, getting rid of rules and regulations and bureaucracy that does not add value to business but adds to the cost of their business, and get rid of the uncertainty out there. I hear from so many business owners that one of the things that's preventing them from being able to hire people is they don't know what big government fee is going to drop next. What about cap and trade? If that goes through, it's a huge tax on our energy that's going to impair their ability to be able to stay alive. What about union card checks? That will impact their ability to be able to work effectively with their teams. What about the mandates in the health care bill? What about the 1099 requirements? All these big government uncertainties are adding to the risks that businesses may need to take and making it difficult for them to seize. As your next congressperson, I will work to remove these risks and to help the private enterprise succeed. Thank you.
Mr. Larson, 2 minutes.
Well, I couldn't disagree more strongly with Ann. She says the wasteful programs that were put forward, like the Community Health and Wellness Center of Greater Torrington, where we work directly with Kathy Drummond, $1.3 million. Like Northwestern Connecticut Community College, where we work with Barbara Douglas, $350,000 for much-needed nurses that need it here in Litchfield County. Like the town of New Hartford, $7,600,000 coming to deal with water pollution so people's taxes wouldn't go up, so that we would be able to put people back to work. The city of Torrington, $750,000. The mayor, Ryan Bingham, came down to my office and negotiated for, and we helped and assisted pass because of the difficult economic times. The town of Barkhamsted, $500,000. The Torrington Police Department, the Pleasant Valley Volunteer Fire Department. I was today at something, I'm glad that Ed Riley is here from the Iron Workers. I stood today with Frida Turner at the Community Health Care Center, at Charter Oak Health Care Center in Hartford, Connecticut. There stood iron workers and pediatricians. The iron workers putting up American-made steel, making it here in America again, as part of this Recovery Act, employing over 300 people and providing needed pediatricians and outreach to our economy here. The Recovery Act, yes, didn't do everything, but everyone forgets as well. I guess Andy would be opposed to the largest tax cut that is provided to the American citizens, more than $282 million in FICA taxes. And then what about the teachers? And what about the police and the firemen and the emergency medical people? And oh, by the way, the students who you would take away the Pell Grants from, who got them, who allowed them to go to college. There is a big difference in this election.
Mr. Krajewski, 2 minutes.
So I hear Ann talk about the fact that there are no jobs anymore. She was a corporate efficiency expert, which in corporate doublespeak to me means she was a downsizer and she found ways to get rid of jobs. I'm scared by that. If I'm incorrectly interpreting the title, Ann, please correct me. But to me, it just sounds like that George Clooney will be up in the air where they figure out ways to make corporations more profitable at the expense of workers. So that, I'm tired of hearing Republican rhetoric and I'm tired of hearing Democratic rhetoric throughout this entire 4 debates. Congressman Larson just talked about $10,500,000 in earmarks, $10,500,000 in earmarks. If you add up all the numbers he just gave you. To me, that is like less than the cost of an F-22 that we give to United Technologies. But the thing is, we talked about this yesterday, in that the important thing is that we take care of people. And if we want jobs, we need to create a massive Works Progress Administration, Marshall-style plan to rebuild the United States. The problem with the stimulus is not that it was insufficient. I mean, it's not that it was too much money, it was that it was not enough. Paul Krugman of the New York Times has repeatedly stated we needed to pump more money into the economy in order to make the stimulus work. And I think that we have to redouble our efforts, and we have to create a massive Works Progress Administration. The Democratic Party lost its way. It needed to look at the roots of the Rooseveltian economics of the New Deal. We need a Green New Deal. We need to focus on innovation in green energy, and we need to rebuild the infrastructure of this country. The American Society of Civil Engineers constantly says our infrastructure is failing. We see bridges collapse in Minneapolis. We need to hire workers like the iron workers to rebuild those bridges, to rebuild the roads, to rebuild our country.
Mr. Hutchinson, 2 minutes.
Thank you. When Ann Brickley talks about efficiency in business, it's talking about smashing unions. When John Larson talks about how great the recovery's been, well, let's look at where some of the recovery money's gone. The money that's gone to the auto industries has actually gone to cut jobs. We've seen in the company of GM, we've seen workers that have been forced to take a 50% pay cut. That's just wrong. We need to create a real public works program, and we can do it. The money's there. It's being spent in the wrong places. It's being spent for things like increasing our prison system. In Hartford, where I'm from, 1 out of 6 children have a parent in jail. Most of these are non-violent offenders. We spend $17 billion on the war effort every year, or on the military every year from Connecticut out of our tax dollars. With just half of that money, we could create a jobs program that puts every unemployed person back to work for $50,000 a year. I don't even make that money. We need to incorporate these sort of programs into our thinking. And it's only going to happen through the independent action of working people. It won't be handed down to us from on high, from the government, unless we are out in the streets demanding these sort of things. We need to organize in that fashion, and we need to protect our unions and organize them as well.
Ms. Brickley, 90 seconds.
Well, it's nice that Congressman Larson gave a few examples of projects going on here in this area, which is great. But I think I have to remind everyone that for every tax dollar that we send to Washington, only 69 cents comes back to the state of Connecticut. So the more money we send to Washington, they figure out how to redistribute it, which states get what. We are getting far less than our fair share. Furthermore, the stimulus bill was $800 billion worth of spending. So the $10.5 million that came back to this area, I think, is relatively small in the overall scheme of things. I also want to point out that the Made in America emphasis that he's putting on right now, that the National Association of Manufacturers is against, the National Federation of Small Businesses is also against it, because it doesn't encourage the private enterprise to grow. Thank you.
Mr. Larson, 90 seconds.
I was with Diane Weimer on Park Street at Ace Hardware store. Diane works in a business, small business. Her father's 84 years old. He was up on the roof. I asked her, I said, how many products on this shelf are made in America? She said, almost none. That's the truth. Why? Well, because there was a practice during the Bush administration of making sure that they provided an incentive to produce and manufacture goods overseas. Overseas, our currency manipulation is going on with the Chinese. There's incentives that we finally close the loophole for so that we can provide manufacturing here at home.